Now Excel is just at home working with time as it is with working with normal numbers, so to speak. The only thing you need to bear in mind is the time delimiter is a colon. So if we were to pick on a cell and look at how to write the time in, if we wanted to put 12 o'clock, we could put 12:00, so it's 12 hours, 0 minutes, return. When you click back on, what you'll see in the formula bar is Excel has displayed this as hours, minutes and seconds, all three portions of the time divided by a colon, and then it's put PM. So if I go down to the next cell and put 14:25, I can click back on and see that in the formula bar it says 2:25 PM, and again it's displaying the seconds even though I'm not typing them. I could type the seconds. I could say let's go for 3:25 and 30 seconds. Then the seconds get displayed in the cell and they get displayed in the formula bar. So any portion of time can be used either because you're trying to denote a time of the day, or you're just using it as a counter for time. It may be that you're trying to log up a number of hours and say, well, let's have 20 hours, let's have 10 hours, and then let's add them together. That's all achievable. It's all portions of time. Now, the only thing to bear in mind is that 60 seconds will then make a minute, and 60 minutes will then make an hour, and 24 hours will make a day. As far as Excel is concerned, a day is a single unit, and each of the time elements we have here is effectively just a portion of that. So 12 o'clock, which is halfway through the day, if I take away the time formatting, because that's all that's making it look like time, and go to general, I get 0.5. That's because half a day is 12 hours. 14:25 or 2:25 in the afternoon, if I take away the formatting and choose general, that's 0.600694. Now this ability to convert time into decimals is how Excel can then work with time to find the difference between one time and another, to add up time as a kind of log so that you can total it up. So you can total up somebody's hours, or you can total up the duration of events, however you want to be doing that totaling. But it's knowing that behind the scenes, any element of hours, minutes and seconds is just a proportion of a whole one, and the one being a day. Now we can type in the time pretty much any way we like, as long as we use that colon. That's the trigger to Excel to say, this person is dealing with time. I can put just 10 PM, and you can see it reformats to be 10:00 PM, and in the formula bar it still shows the seconds as well. Or I could put 9 AM. So the AM and the PM there are indicators to Excel that I'm using time, and it then formats accordingly. Be very careful when typing the AM and the PM, if you want to use those, that you actually put a space. If I just put 9 PM without a space, you see that Excel does not convert that to 9 PM time-wise because there's no gap, so it cannot trigger that PM. Put a gap in, and it's happy to then convert that to 9 PM or 2100, depending on if you want to work in a 24-hour clock. So that's the basics for time in Excel. Just remember the colon, and you should be away with this really. Hour, minutes, seconds. If you want to type in minutes and seconds but not the hour, then what you have to be careful of is just how you enter that. If there are no hours in your time and you think, well, I'll just put 30 minutes, 30 seconds because Guy said put a colon in between, unfortunately, you'll see that gets converted to 6:30 AM. It hasn't seen the 30:30, so 30 minutes and 30 seconds as 30 minutes and 30 seconds. It's seen it as 30 hours and 30 minutes. Therefore, that's a day with 6 hours and a half left over, which is why we get 6 hours and a half. But because of the day element, we now have date formatting in our formula bar, and we can see here 1/1/1900. Now 1/1/1900 is not just an arbitrary date chosen by Excel, it is actually the start of Excel's time. That is, we cannot put dates before 1st of the 1st, 1900. So January the 1st, 1900, as far as Excel is concerned, is day one. Every day since then is just one more added on. So what's happened here is it's taken our 30:30, misinterpreted 30 minutes and 30 seconds as 30 hours and 30 minutes, taken away the day element, and left us with 6 hours 30, which is what we get displayed in the cell. In the formula bar, we see 1/1/1900. Because of those 24 hours, it now thinks we're starting to deal with dates, so it puts a date format in. Now that I've then pressed return as well, after entering the cell, it's placed that formatting into the cell. So I want to remove all the date formatting. I simply go to the drop down and choose time. And then we see 6:30 a.m. In order to see it as 30 minutes and 30 seconds, we actually have to give it a value to the hour proportion, which is 0. Then we can do hour 30, then we can do hour 30. That really is the only caveat to be careful of when typing values in. When I then return from there, you'll see that quite happily is 30 minutes, 30 seconds. And it's converted the 0 to be 12, because we're partway through the day. But the important bit there, when we're looking at adding up or summing time duration, is that is classed as 30 minutes and 30 seconds. So that's the formatting and how to type it in so that Excel understands you're typing in time. Let's have a look at it in action using the data sheet. Now in here we have a few people's names, Bob, Rita, Sally and John, and their start and end time of working on a particular task. Now the times start and end have been entered in different formats. You'll see there's PMs in there, there's 24-hour clocks in there from 23:45 to 0:35. There's seconds in there, 3:15 and 30 to 4:05 and 20. The reason we've entered in different formats and layouts and numerical values of time is so that you can see that Excel can still work out the difference between one and the other. So we can put in here a straightforward formula, which is to take the end time and minus the start time, which will give us a duration between the two. And we see that that's come out as 1 hour. Let's then replicate that to the bottom of our cells. And we have 2:05, an hour, 12:35 to 13:40 is an hour and 5, 2 hours, 1 hour. This one throws a little bit of a wobbly. We end up with lots of little hashes there. It's got confused. We'll come back to that one shortly. 1:35, 1:15, 50 minutes and 49 minutes. Now that's not showing the seconds because we've copied that one down and the formatting of the first one didn't have any seconds on it. So really what I ought to do is format the whole lot. Let's come down to more number formats. And in the custom, if I want the hours as well with the seconds, it's H:MM:SS. Okay, and then I get to see the 50 seconds difference. None of the others had any seconds in. When I copied the formula down, we recall that it copies the formatting down, therefore wasn't able to display the seconds. So what are we going to do with this little problem here? The problem here has been caused by the fact that we're trying to take away 11 p.m. from 2 a.m. Now, we know that if you start at 11 p.m. and go through to 2 a.m., that's 3 hours. However, in Excel, it's looking at the raw numbers and it's saying that, well, actually, you're trying to take away the past from the future because it doesn't know that this 2 a.m. is the next day. Now, we can negate that by actually using an if statement. And we'll say equals if. Okay, so if our time is going to go past midnight, so we're into the next day, then what we need to do is check that that's occurring. So if C9, so if our second date is less than B9, so effectively it appears if the second time is actually earlier than the first time, but we know it's not, it's gone through midnight into the next day, then what we want to happen is let's add 1 to the second time, and 1 is a day, so that takes us into the next day, and then we'll take away the B9, comma, just do the one minus the other. So we're saying here, if the second date is less than the first date, so it appears to be behind it, then we're actually going to add 1 to C9, so that's to the second date, to effectively move it into the next day, and then take away the B9, comma, false. So if it's not less than, then we're fine to go ahead and take one away from the other. When we press return now, we get the 3 hours that we expected. Now really, we should have put that if in the top one and replicated downwards, but we can do that backwards by copying that formula and pasting it on top of all of them. And we see none of the values have changed, but this one remains at the 3 hours. So we've checked whether the second time is less than, i.e. it's gone into the next day, and added that 1 day on for the system so that it knows it's gone over to another day and then works the difference out. And the difference is that John has worked 3 hours through the night effectively. So that's working with time, the important bit of being able to type in with the colons between the time elements, and then we can see we can work the difference out between two time elements to then further calculate running totals of time, which are much more difficult to calculate than you would at first think because of that lack of decimalization in time. We have 60 seconds in a minute, we have 60 minutes in an hour, we have 24 hours in a day.